So this is a follow-up to the previous video that we did called Plan Your Project, and we talked about this area right here and how it was on the north side of my house and under a paper bark maple tree with dappled sunlight, so we defined it as a part shade site. And what we're doing today in this video is to show how to properly plant. Now that we picked the right plant for this location, I want to show you how to properly plant so that the plant successfully takes in its new environment. So before you start your project of planting a shrub or a tree, these are the tools that you're going to need to do the project successfully. You're going to want your bumper crop and your biotone root starter, so your soil improver and your starter fertilizer. You're going to want a scarifier. This is what I'm using here. You can use a knife or a box cutter or anything, but you want to use this to scarify the root system for a potted tree. Shovel, obviously, to dig your hole. And I always like to have a rake so that I can rake things out nice and smooth toward the end. The only thing I'm missing here is the bark mulch, where we finish and put a 2.5-inch layer of bark mulch around the plant as well. And of course, water. Have a hose handy. And really it starts with positioning the plant right where you want it, just like this. And then I kind of outline 2.5 times the diameter with a shovel here. And then I take the plant out and I start to dig. I taper in on the edge a little bit, doesn't need to be straight down. I've built my soils up with compost over time, and you can see it's a nice organic loam. Crumbles nice in the hand, not too clayey and dense, and not too sandy. I tend to put something in almost every year. I find an interesting plant at the nursery that I like, and I try it out here and see how it does. But I also consider what's around it so that it creates a nice presentation, a nice mix of plant material. Easiest plants to plant are the smaller plants. You don't have to dig as big of a hole, but this is not a lot of work, especially when you have good soils. I'm hitting a few rocks in here, but people don't realize how easy it is sometimes. This will take me a matter of about 3 or 4 minutes to dig this hole. Now you want to be careful not to dig too deep. You want a firm base. You don't want to have it soft on the bottom where the plant will actually settle over time. And if you do dig a little deep, you just want to compact it down on the bottom a little bit. So what I do when I think I have it near the right depth, I'll take the plant out of the pot, put it in the center of the hole, use my shovel as kind of a guide. And that looks a little deep to me, but not bad. What you want to see is the root collar or the junction of the trunk and the roots be level or slightly above grade. So this plant should really be right about there. So I've dug about 2 inches too deep. And I want to pack this down, so I do not want the plant to settle. You want it loose on the sides, but solid on the bottom. Now you can see that's about level with the ground, slightly above grade by 3/4 or an inch. So that's about the right depth. Next thing you want to do is scarify the root system. The roots are forming a circular pattern because they're inside the pot. So we need to loosen this up and get this loose soil to loosen up the roots, so the roots want to go out into the nice soil that we're going to put around the root system. Otherwise it has a little more of a challenge breaking away from this shape right here, and it will take longer to establish. So I typically grab some kind of a scarifying tool, and you look like you're really roughing it, but you're not. You can knock off some of the roots altogether. The circling roots aren't too bad on this one. But that's kind of the look that you want to establish here. Now you can see some roots are freed up out of their soil, and they'll be able to establish growth out to the sides much easier. Here's Mabel the dog. She was in the last video too. She's very curious. A new plant, Mabel. Oh boy, oh boy. So the next thing I do is I take my bumper crop, which is made by the Coast of Maine company, and it contains a lot of good ingredients in here. It's a planting mix that's going to improve the nutritional value of the soil. All good stuff such as worm casting, lobster and crab shells, kelp meal, aged bark, dehydrated manure, a little bit of peat moss. And I'm gonna mix some of this in. Probably don't need much, and in this case where my soils are so good, I'll probably put 25% of this added to my existing soils. So just rip open the bag. I'm gonna dump it in off to the side here a little bit. And the next product we use is Biotone starter fertilizer. For any new plants, we recommend this. It's an organic, nutrient-rich fertilizer. This will cause the development of the bacteria and the fungi in your soils that produce nitrates and let off more nitrogen to help the plant grow. So for this 3-gallon plant, I need approximately 2 cups. I just kind of estimate a handful is 1 cup, second handful, 2 cups. And I just use my hands, but I want to mix this in with the backfill that I'm going to put around the root system. Once it's blended up with the native soil, the planting mix, and the fertilizer, I'll grab my shovel and start putting it around all sides. About halfway through, if this were July and my soils were really dry, I'd add water. And by the way, I would add water to this, especially in the summer, so that this was really wet. The existing root mass in the container was really wet, which it is right now. So I'm not going to water this in yet, but normally if it were July, I'd put water here and then backfill the rest of the way. So now that I've put soil all around the hole, which was 2.5 times as wide as the pot, we've loosened the roots, the soil is all improved. I tap it down, not too heavily, you don't want to compact this too much. Tap it down with my foot. Then I pull it away from the trunk. You can see where the old pot image is slightly above root grade here, so that's good. The next thing I do is for watering. I build, especially on the lower side, I build up the soil. I call it a circle berm, so that when we water, I know all the water is going to be contained and go straight down about a foot into the ground, which is the depth of the root system. So I firm up the circle berm, especially on the downhill side here, so the water doesn't break through. If we didn't do this, it's on a slight grade here, the water would tend to go this way and would never go down deep. So this is a real important step. In fact, once we fill this up today with 3 to 4 gallons of water, we're gonna do that every other day for the next 2 weeks. Then we know it's wet. And at that point, we don't want to overwater. I know I have well-drained soil, so I back off. And if I get an inch of rain any given week, I don't need to water anymore. But I will generally water once every week or 2 until I know my roots are established. And now I'm going to water. Whoops. Slow down. Probably put on about 3 gallons of water here. Sometimes if I don't build my circle berm big enough, I'll fill this up and let it drain twice. And then you just got to regrade and get rid of some of these big rocks that came out of the hole I dug. Make it all nicey nice. Once you plant something with the starter fertilizer, you really don't need to fertilize much thereafter if you have the good quality soils. But it's never going to hurt if you want to fertilize your shrubs once a year, your trees, shrubs, perennials, with a lower nitrogen product, slow release nitrogen. It's going to feed the soils. It's going to feed the soils more than the plant. Those are the products you want to use. So now I've got it all graded out, and I didn't bring it with me, but I would have the mulch typically feathered into the existing mulch here, and I would mulch right over this circle berm. I would not mulch too high on the stem though. I would flare it down, keep it away from the stem, because that can promote diseases and insects in that wet conditions up against the trunk. So just a light layer of mulch here, and then 2 inches or whatever all around here. Typically when we do an insulation job for our customers, we leave a nice circle of mulch, about 2.5 inches thick.